Thank you everybody for joining tonight. This is the District 5 United meeting. District 5 United strives to improve the quality of life in East San Jose, and towards that end holds meetings regularly.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. And I'm delighted to be with you, and happy St. Patrick's Day for those of you who are celebrating. I have on with me both Paul Murphy and Scott Strickland. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it back over so that we can make sure that we can dive into the housing piece. And I just will apologize. I do need to leave a little before 7, but Scott will be here to answer questions. And that is because I'm have a meeting tonight with the governor's office because we're advocating for more vaccines. So Scott?
So all of us can see that the homelessness situation remains dire. We have almost 10,000 unhoused people in the county, and over 6,000 of them are in San Jose. The county's primary long-term response to homelessness, which is shared by the city of San Jose and our nonprofit partners, is building new permanent housing for the homeless. Over 90% of the people that we have already placed in permanent supportive housing have remained stably housed for 2 years. Naturally, it takes years to build new housing, and it's frustrating to see the impacts of homelessness in the meantime. In 2016, the county quintupled its year-round shelter capacity, and since then has opened at least 3 more shelters. We can shelter about 2,500 people every night, and the federal government has paid for us to shelter another 1,000 with the highest health risk during the pandemic. Of course, that still leaves over 6,000 on the streets. The county and most of the cities in the county have adopted a goal of once again doubling our permanent shelter capacity. The news is better for a long-term solution. We're ahead of pace right now to achieve our goal of building 4,800 units of homeless housing within 10 years. That's from the 2016 Measure A housing bond. Only 4 years into the program, we've already approved projects that will attain 64% of our 10-year goal. So we're about 2/3 the way through to our goal in only 4 years. So far, the board has approved Measure A developments in Santa Clara, Cupertino, Milpitas, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, and in San Jose City Council districts 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. We're currently working on more developments in all of these cities, as well as Los Altos and several in Mountain View. And Cindy always wants us to thank everyone who voted for Measure A, because that's really what allows our permanent housing solution to be possible. Back to you, Supervisor.
Thank you. And again, we'll open it up for questions. And so the homeless, I'm just going to read them. Is that okay, Juan?
It is. And let me just at this point say, if you are a city staff person, I believe there were supposed to be 2 here tonight to field city questions. Please use the Q&A feature to let me know, and I'll make you a panelist so you can answer questions a little bit later.
So this one says, the homeless problem in San Jose is out of control. Crime is up, assaults are increasing along with vandalism and garbage. The creeks are a mess. When are we going to prioritize taxpayers who are drowning in this mess? People are irate, and it seems the city is doing nothing. Will you commit to banning encampments along the creeks? The situation is danger to citizens. We are encouraged to build ADUs. Many have. Do your part. Also, when will other districts in San Jose take some of the burden in their neighborhood instead of using downtown as a dumping ground? So I'm not going to be able to respond really to what the city's doing. What I can say, and this is where the city and the county need to do a better job of partnering. And let me start by saying this. This is a really complex problem. And I just want to say, I think all of us, especially those of us in government, need to work much harder to collaborate with each other to resolve these issues. And as Scott talked about, is that the county really has invested in a very long-term vision to build housing. In addition to, we just adopted a plan to end homelessness that includes us working with cities throughout the county to add more shelters in our community writ large. In addition to that, the county is really investing quite a lot in mental health and mental health services and drug and alcohol services, because what we'd really like to do is help people get off the street and stay off the street permanently. This Tuesday, I'm bringing forward an action to my colleagues asking for us to create a joint powers agreement, in particular with the water districts, so that as the water district's working to keep the creeks clean, that the county is partnering with them to make sure as people are being either removed from the creeks or placed in other locations, that they're getting the services they need to stay in those locations. And the action also looks to us to partner with groups like the Air Quality District and other institutions that will have a permanent partnership to make sure that we're working on this issue collaboratively. What is being done for the ones who will not accept housing? That actually is the kind of the $9 million question. I think one of the things that we're finding is that a super majority of the folks that we're dealing with want to accept housing. We also recognize that there are a lot of people who are on the streets who are just so mentally ill, or they're so addicted to drugs that they're really service resistant, in part because they're not present enough to frankly even choose to get services. We're working really hard with our partner organizations to determine what are the real options, including that many people don't know this, but the county already has a little over 150 locked beds in our community for people who need those services. And so what we're doing is we're looking at those locked beds, determining whether or not the people who are in there can be transferred out so that we can use those beds for people who may need them. And we're also looking at expanding those locked beds, because we know there are some people that need to be kept safe from themselves or others that haven't committed criminal acts outside of their mental health issues, and so they don't actually belong in jail. So we're working now on bringing forward a proposal to address those issues. What are other cities doing to contribute with helping homeless besides San Jose? Unhoused are now present in many cities. Yeah, Rosalinda, what a great question. We've been working really closely with a number of cities, and I actually, along with Supervisor Ellenberg, convened a county-wide convening with elected officials from all over, and we're asking every city in the county to adopt the Plan to End Homelessness, and as part of that plan, buy into some actions that each of our communities can take. And I don't know if Gilroy has voted on it yet. I don't know if you know that, Scott.
I don't know, but we'll be reconvening the Unhoused Task Force to hold every city accountable on April 29th.
Thank you. And then one thing, Rochelle, about people not accepting housing, I think that's the same question. I mean, another question we have to think about with shelters. And one of the things we have to figure out is how to make them more safe and more palatable for people, so that more people will take those kinds of interim housing resources. And with schools starting to open up in sports, Little League and soccer, I'm concerned with children having to walk through the encampments to get to school or play sports. And again, on the city side, I'll let the city respond to that, Sharon, because I know Todd's gonna respond to some of those. And I think I missed one. Hey, Scott, I apologize for this, but I'm gonna jump off to get ready for that other call. And I think, can you take the tiny house question? And it starts with Deborah McCausland. And I don't know if you can see these questions, Scott, can you?
No.
Juan, can you see them?
Yes.
Can you get
yes.
them to Scott? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks all. I'm sorry I have to jump off, but I appreciate very much the questions, and I really appreciated being asked back, and we'll come back as often as we're invited. Thank you all.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
One, tiny houses. Can you read me the question?
Yeah, I can. Just in case other questions you want to answer just by reading them, there should be a Q&A
Oh yeah, I got it.
on the menu. And if you click that, that's what I'm looking at. You could pick the ones you want. And let's continue with just answering them in the interest of time, as opposed to having panelists ask the questions.
Okay, are the tiny houses besides 280 under 101 a housing solution? I'm going to buck that one to the city folks because that's a city project. There are many answers. There's not just one answer to housing and homelessness. So tiny houses can be part of the solution. We have erected 25 tiny houses next to the old city hall on Mission Street at First Street in San Jose, and we're using that to take families off the street. So 25 families at a time are taken off the street and put in those tiny houses until we can get them into apartments, which takes about 90 days. So that site will be serving probably 75 families a year.
And if there are other questions that pertain to the
scanning, Cindy got that one.
God, I can answer the question about Laura's Law. Someone asked the question, what's the status of AO2 or Laura's Law? There's a special hearing of the Health and Hospital Committee on March 24th, and I sent Juan the link to that. We don't have the ability to put information into the chat tonight, and the board will be considering whether they will continue to opt out or opt into AOT or Laura's Law, I believe, in late April or May. Thanks.
There's a question, where is housing developing in District 5 for homeless? One is the Quetzal Gardens development at King and Alum Rock, and one is just been approved by the board, which is very close to the Alum Rock Library, where I wish that we all were tonight. And let's see, it's more of a city question. Who are the partner organizations? It seems as if the problem is being passed off to a different entity. As a taxpayer, I want to see real results. The county has contracts with organizations to help people with their mental health needs. So examples are Community Solutions and Momentum Mental Health. For those solutions, we also have sobriety contractors to help with addiction issues. We have shelter operators like Home First and Life Moves, and then we have Destination Home, which helps us fund the permanent supportive housing sites. So the county is actually accountable for all of these programs. We just use private contractors, nonprofit contractors to implement them. And see if I got one here. Okay, Creek, Cindy took that one. This is not a new issue, says Crystal. It seems for as long as I've lived downtown, 20 years, I've noticed a problem with homelessness that's gotten tremendously worse. Why has it taken so long to bring forth efforts now that crime is rampant and police don't do anything about it? The problem has gotten exceptionally worse in the last 10 years. I've lived downtown for 35 years. And although there's always been a problem, it's gotten much worse. 3 years ago, we had 7,500 homeless in the county, and 2 years later, that went up to 9,700. So there's been a really huge increase. Part of it is the whole the housing crisis itself. In 8 years between 2007 and 2015, I gotta mute myself, hang on. The Bay Area produced 350,000 new jobs. and only 38,000 new homes. So basically 10 jobs for every home. So that's created a Bay Area-wide housing crisis. So Juan, in respect for your agenda, I'm going to hand it back to you.
All right, thank you for answering those questions.